Welcome. Willkommen.
Bienvenue. Добро пожаловать. Witamy.
Benvenuto.
ようこそ
To This Week in Voice Live.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Bradley.
Good morning. How are you?
I am great. How about yourself?
Doing good. Doing good. You know, there are days, and they're increasingly more often now, where every 10 seconds that goes by, 1 minute goes by, and it seems like the world is accelerating, and this is one of those days. But it's good to see you.
Yeah, it's nice to be back in the swing of things.
Yeah, you can say that again. Yeah, and I'm excited about our guest. I'm excited. You know, it's been cool to see a lot of the folks that y'all are working with just as colleagues in the program, and I'm looking forward to meeting Jonathan as well.
Yeah, it's going to be a fantastic discussion. So yeah, let's jump in. So, you know, for everybody out there, happy Friday. Welcome to This Week in Voice Live. We're going to start out with our regular discussion of some news in the voice industry from recent times. We're going to do an interview with Jonathan, who is the founder and managing partner of Enjoy the Work. And then we're going to be playing a game of Drawful 2 and flex our artistic capabilities. Which should be... Yeah, I use artistic capabilities pretty loosely.
You should. For me, you should.
yeah, me too. Yeah, Bradley, you want to go first?
Yeah. So there's a few different articles that I could have cited for this. They're starting to pop up more and more, but you know, it's been at least 8 to 12 weeks where we've been seeing stories in the media related to labor shortages. And I have sort of a unique vantage point on this. I've traveled to 36 different cities since early January. So I've been to Seattle, I've been to San Francisco, I've been to Los Angeles. I was in Los Angeles when it was the height of this pandemic. I was in Chicago, I was in Portland, I was in Minneapolis, I was in New York City, Newark, Boston, Philadelphia, DC. And the places that we were having these outdoor meetups were restaurants. And, you know, other than if we had it outdoors at a park, which we did in San Francisco. And you could see it then that there was a labor mismatch. And, you know, both sides of the political spectrum want to preach their narrative on this. The people on the right want to say, hey, we gave you too much money, so you're not showing up to work. The people on the left want to say, you're not paying us too much money, so we're not showing up to work. And the reality is somewhere in the middle. And not to really go there, but it's important to sort of dive into that a little bit to understand what this particular story is about and what we want to cover, which is robots and AI-driven machines of different sorts being called upon to fill some of that shortfall. And it's super interesting. I think it's a sign of the times. And I think we've only just begun to see it. And conversational AI, voice technology is a big part of that, and what will be done with that. And so, you know, I don't really have a grand statement to make. It's just, I think anybody watching this show or thinking about these things needs to be watching this closely, because every startup out of the Google accelerator, you know, every startup out of any accelerator working on this stuff will have opportunities here. And for the companies that are incumbent to the space, they need to pay attention to this too.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that the most recent article about a crab shack getting these robot waiters, they got 3 of them for $10,000 a piece, which is, you know, so much less expensive than even just a few years ago when the first, you know, burger flipping or taco mixing robots were coming on the market. And these ones, they chose to do sort of host type activities. So it greets people at the front, it takes them to their table. So obviously, you know, quite a bit less expensive than paying a person to do it. and easier to to get reliably, but it also runs food out. And I worked in food service only for about 6 months or so, but that was that was for me as a waiter, that was one of the biggest determining factors in the tip that I would get, was how quickly could I get food after it was ready out to the patron, how hot could I get it out onto their table. And so it actually, it does obviously have some impact on the people that would otherwise fill those host roles, but can actually have a positive impact for everybody else sort of downstream in the restaurant as well.
Well, yeah, and the final note on this, as far as I'm concerned, is that I've got a number of people who have been around me for a long time in advisory roles, who are good friends of mine, who have helped guide me in business, and a lot of them work in the restaurant sector, either as consultants or as owners. And one thing I can say about that industry, they love to copy each other. They love to not be the first to come up with something. I realize it's probably a human trait, but all it's going to take is that one article. This is not the article. This just says someone's trying something. That one article that says somebody did this and the service was equal to or greater, and everything else was the same, and it's going to be off to the races with this thing. So it's worth watching.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing if like Darden Brands, which is who I worked for, eventually gets this as well. So changing topics a little bit. So I wanted to talk about the Alexa show mode that Amazon and Lenovo announced this week. So it's only available on right now, only available on certain Lenovo laptops. Interestingly enough, it's ones that have far-field microphones built in. So there's not a whole lot of detail around what that setup looks like. I'm sure that's going to change, especially given Amazon's strategy of put Alexa everywhere and let everybody do what they want. And it turns the Echo Show turns the laptop into an Echo Show with all the multimodal glory that you get along with it. I think it's really interesting for two reasons. One is obviously convenience. I mean, before I had an Echo Show, I would have my laptop sitting in my kitchen if I was trying to cook a recipe, and invariably you get oil and splatter and stuff on it. But then it also is a big contrast and I think a big blow to Google, that Google obviously dominates the mobile market, both generally as well as voice assistants on mobile, but with and Microsoft for a short period of time, I guess you could say, dominated the PC market with Cortana, although not sure how many people ended up using it. But this gives Amazon sort of a greenfield opportunity to bring voice assistants onto the PC world. So I'll be super interested to see how that sort of expansion plays out over the next couple months.
Yeah, I think you're right. And when I look at this, I love this story. And if you hadn't chosen, I probably would have going on my diatribe. But when I look at this, I see what I hope is not one of the last legacy projects in which Amazon is willing to openly experiment with Alexa. One thing with Bezos being there, driving Alexa, these other guys, his lieutenants, but Bezos in charge, it's really been defined by a lot of experimentation. From the Dot was an experiment, the Show was an experiment, the Echo buttons were an experiment. I could go on and on. And some experiments worked out and some didn't, and they ended up in a great place. This is an experiment as well, and I love it. I think it's super interesting. I think it can be really valuable to a lot of people, and it can be iterated upon. I just when I look at it, I really like it, but I also hope. It reminds me of what 2018 was with all the experimentation in 2019, and I just hope we continue to see that.
Yeah, it's and certainly I imagine it will be more fully featured, more stable than some of their other initial version 1 products that they.
We can hope.
All right, let's bring on our guests. Let's see. Jonathan, good morning.
I'm
Jonathan,
here. I'm awake from a cold shower and far too much caffeine. So I think I'm reasonably ready for the two of you. I'll let you and your viewers be the judge, of course.
thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. So, Jonathan, you and I have gotten the opportunity to speak a few times. I've been, really just super pleased and honored to be able to hear from you and the Enjoy the Work team as part of the Google for Startup Accelerator Voice and AI program. But a lot of the people out in the audience probably are not familiar with you and your company. So, do you want to tell us what Enjoy the Work is all about, why you created
our
the firm?
worldwide profile hasn't fully landed yet for everyone. It's just Enjoy the Work is not intuitive household name. Thanks, Emerson. Yeah, we're a niche shop in a bubble in a bubble in a bubble. So happy to give a little bit of context. I started Enjoy the Work 7 years ago. I'd been an operator for a long time. I ran a $1 billion division for a large public company. I then did a turnaround, which Bradley, I heard the earlier part, was in the hospitality industry. I ran hotels and casinos and 13 restaurants at one time. And yes, we copied the hell out of every other restaurateur that seemed to know what they were doing. I then did my first startup in 2007, and it did okay. We raised a couple of rounds of venture. We were able to sell the company 4 years later, and I made like $1 in a bag of chips. But I masochistically enjoyed it so much that I jumped right back into another startup, and this time joined an early stage company where, as president, I helped lead us to our first $20 million in revenue. When I came out of that journey, that was now 4 companies later, I had this thesis that I wanted to test, and that thesis became Enjoy the Work. The thesis was there's this separation between the magic that founders will into existence. They see something the world needs that no one else had thought of, and they go create it. There's a separation between that and building a sustainable company around that idea. So I spent 2 years interviewing founders everywhere I could find them, from medical device here in the Bay Area to fintech in Tel Aviv. And what I came out of that journey with was this understanding that all founders kind of go through the same things at the same stages of company maturation. They, in fact, have the same questions. How do I fundraise? How do I build a capable team? What are the kind of metrics that matter? How do I build goals that stick? They had the same kind of questions at the same stages. And at the end of that exercise, I had 16 companies that I was personally working with X number of hours every single week, all in the same rhythm, even though the companies didn't look anything like one another. And that became Enjoy the Work. So now, 7 years later, it's myself and 8 other partners. All of us have built and grown and sold things many times over. We're veteran operators, which is, veteran is this nice euphemism for being old. And then we have a small operating staff underneath us with about 50 companies with which we work every day. Because it's 50 companies, it feels like a lot to us, but across the startup ecosystem, to your point, Emerson, most people haven't heard of us yet. We partner with accelerators and venture firms as a way of creating value to those portfolios. It feels really good to us. And it also allows us to go meet the kind of next generation of exciting young companies that might be a fit for what we want to do.
I love the name. Yeah, I love the name. And you communicate a whole lot real quick. And, that's what good names do. And, I started a business back in 2008 that was a video game retail and entertainment business. And I sold that in 2013. Again, $1 in a bag of chips is a good analogy. Nobody sailed to Tahiti after that. And, I learned some important things then. And one of them was, I've been a lifelong gamer my whole life. I never played less video games than I did from 2008 to 2013. Okay. In fact, I really started to hate them. And, people who look at entrepreneurship and they hear this stuff about, it's not really work. There's a lot of bad advice that kind of floats in that orbit. But, your name, and I see this like with our son, I see it with athletes, people who learn to enjoy the work are the ones who become successful. It's not that you're saying it's not work. you're calling it the work that it is, and you're learning to enjoy it. And we've seen that from the voice space as well. You know, we've seen Johnny come lately's come in, stroll in here, and we've seen them head right on out of here. And, you know, and it's people who really seem to have some sort of higher level calling that they develop. Maybe they don't enter the space with it, but they develop it, and they hit another gear. And
Bradley,
so,
I'm sure you get the question, as I do pretty regularly, from a founder or an aspiring founder who's curious about, should I do this thing? Bradley, should I build this company? And for years now, I've had the same answer to that question, which I know I've entirely bitten from someone else, and I just don't recall who it is. If you're out there, I apologize. But the answer was, you only start the company if you can't not start the company. If not doing it will cause you such existential angst that you won't be happy. When I left my last business in 2014, I really was convinced I was never going to do another company. And I had this entity that I had created called Enjoy the Work, which was this very selfish, this came from this very selfish ideal for me of what are the ingredients that will make me professionally happy every day. And working with founders and working with startups and some aspect of education and teaching and pedagogy and curriculum, like I knew that's where it was, but I also knew that I had other kind of criteria to it. Like I wanted to curate who I'd spend time with, and I wanted a lot of control over my time and location. What I then ended up finding was that I was having so much fun doing it, it was starting to become a company. And then I had to ask myself, wait a minute, do I want to build a company? And I realized inside, like, oh, I have to. Damn it.
I love that. Yeah, no, I love everything about what you put together. And I'll actually ask you a question this time, and I'll make it quick. You've been working with all these companies with this accelerator, but you come from an outside point of view. What intrigues you the most about voice technology and what we refer to as conversational AI? What intrigues you the most, and maybe what scares you the most?
I tend to be optimistic. So the notion of singularity and sentience and, you know, the evil empire is going to use our voice and information against us tends not to show up in my answer, but I'll figure out a second part to your question. The first part of your question of what intrigues me is there are occasionally technologies that show up where my selfish, intuitive, instinctual reaction is that this is inevitable. This has to happen. I feel this way about remote medical care. The notion that we will have things in our houses that we can attach to ourselves to answer 80 or 90% of the questions that today we have to go to a doctor's office or a dentist office or a hospital to answer. That is inevitable to me. The notion that we will have brain-to-brain interface, not quite like jamming a USB card like into our ear, but like the notion that something like Neuralink will happen, that is inevitable to me. And the idea that I'm going to step into my car or step into my house and say, house, do this, kitchen, do this, that I'm going to sit in front of my computer and I'm not going to type anymore, because we've been speaking as a race, as a humanity, as a species way longer than we've been typing. That all of that's inevitable. That's the most intriguing part of this category, that there is no future I can imagine where the majority of how we engage technology doesn't move to voice. Now, what scares me are all the obvious security implications of that. I don't believe our voice, and I'm not educated enough to have an expert opinion on this. This is just a paranoid fear. I don't believe our voice is the same kind of snowflake fingerprint that other aspects of our anatomy and DNA, other ways of engaging with technology safely happen to be. So that scares me. If I'm going to show up at my front door and I'm no longer going to use a keypad on my Schlage electronic lock and have Ring recognize me, but instead I'm just going to say door open, that feels easy to impersonate. And there are like a million permutations of that fear, Bradley, not based in any education, based purely from too many spy novels.
I hear you. No, that's a great answer.
I have one last question, and Bradley, if you want to log into Jackbox, then we can get the game started here pretty quickly. But Jonathan, so you said you have about 50 companies in the portfolio. You spoke to a dozen of us, a dozen companies in this accelerator. Obviously, have spoken to hundreds of others across the other accelerators. Do you see any common pitfalls that early stage founders or early stage startups are falling into, even before they begin to think of what does an exit look like, even before they think of what does our super long term perhaps acquisition strategy look like? Or I guess perhaps another way would be like, what advice would you give to people then in that kind of stage?
Sure. We operate from a perspective that all young companies go through the same stages and they're really predictable. There's slightly different B2B versus B2C, Emerson. I'll just give you the B2B answer for the sake of brevity, but they all go through the same stages. It starts with customer discovery. Is there a pain in the world I need to solve? Then it goes to product validation. Can I prove that I can solve that pain? And then we describe the next stage as business model. What's the economically viable way to solve that pain for that particular customer in a way that's interesting to the customer and interesting to me? And then channel. How am I going to fill my proverbial top of the funnel with the target that I am trying to meet, ultimately in a sustainable way? The most common mistake we see young startups make is they operate outside of the stage they're actually in. So I am in product validation. I don't know if my thing works yet. And yet I obsess over how do I meet the next customer. I'm obsessing over how many salespeople should I hire and how many marketing people should I hire and what kind of traffic should I start to generate for my website to convert. And yet my business model is not economically viable.
Yeah.
This is the single biggest mistake. Like if we think about what kills young startups, there are three things in order, and then everything else kind of doesn't matter. The first one is kind of classic Paul Grahamism. I built something no one wants. Great, you're dead. Number two, founder dysfunction. You're a rock band that can put out a hit song, but you no longer can get along. This kills music. This kills musicians. This kills sports teams. This kills startups. That is the cardiovascular disease of startups. Number three is the subtle one, and that's this. That is this idea that I operate beyond the actual stage that I'm in. I have dreams of avarice, and I'm already trying to scale, when in fact, I don't know if at an anatomical level, what I'm doing works yet.
Well said.
Thank you. You want to play a game?
More than anything.
All right, let's do it.
I'm not sure I do. We'll find out. Let's find out how I embarrass myself today.
So, Jonathan, you'll probably have to refresh your page because it's been a while since you had logged in. If you refresh and then just hit log in, it'll bring you right in. Shouldn't be anything you have to do.
I think I'm in there. Can you see if I am?
Does it say please draw on your page?
It does. It does.
All right, then yeah, perfect. So I had already started the game, so I'm going to resume it, and then Bradley and Jonathan, it's time to draw.
Oh dear.
Okay. Oh, it says disconnected.
Oh, oops.
All right, hold on. Let me see if I can get back in. Oh, it says room not found.
Yep. There's a new code that is on the screen here. DIGV.
Got it.
Let me come back. There we go. Okay.
I'm in there. Oh, I need to redraw myself.
All right, there we go.
My previous llama was much prettier. Right.
It's asking me to sit back and relax, but Emerson, I'm very nervous.
Well, we will see how we do. And anybody out in the audience, that code that is on the screen right now, you can see it there. It is DIGV. You can join in to help. Judge. Oh, geez, how do I draw this?
Okay, we starting?
We are starting.
Weird thing that I can't think of an example of right now. Draw a picture on your device that would have that title, and when you're done, hit send. You'll get points for each player that can correctly guess your title. So, get to it.
How long do we get for this?
I think about 30 seconds.
Okay.
Don't forget, you can still join the audience and play along by going to jackbox.tv and entering this room code.
Well, Jonathan, I think you have nothing to worry about. Art department.
I just lost my screen. I don't know if my image showed up. I got a 404 not found. Ooh, no, it's back. Okay.
All right, I hit
Wow.
submit, so hopefully that works.
I did as
All
well.
Peek at your drawings.
So, see who's up first.
Is there any chance of editing this entire portion of the show out, Emerson?
Yeah, we can superimpose some other images there. So now you guys have to guess what you think that is that I drew.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And what do we do? Write it on the thing?
Yeah.
All right.
Quick, type in anything.
I can't. Yeah, I can't wait to see you guess mine.
It told me mine was too close or
And
something.
here are your choices.
Oh, that's pretty
One
good
of them
then.
is the real title. And here are your picks.
You guessed Bradley's one. Listen to radio. That was pretty close. Musical armpits.
Wow, that's pretty good too.
Yeah, Bradley is a ringer at these games.
Oh,
Been
come
on
on.
a not totally undefeated streak. At the beginning, it was maybe a little different. The last,
Let's
oh,
take a look
geez.
at our next drawing.
It's
Type
that.
the title now.
That's amazing. This needs to have spell check.
Yeah, yeah, right.
And why isn't, for a voice AI show, why can't I just speak to my phone to have the title be drawn in? Sorry.
Yeah, funny you mentioned that. We actually have tried some voice-driven games. It's a challenge actually to do multiplayer, like asynchronous voice games. Although Piffle, one of the Google Startup Accelerator companies, is seeking to change that. Ah, nice. Drowning in a ball pit. That's pretty good.
There you go.
That was a good drawing.
That's the high end of my ability right there.
I'm getting crushed.
That's all right. Here we go.
Up next.
The hell is that? Oh,
Like
wow.
I'm leaning closer to the screen.
And here are your choices.
Frosty Snowman driving car, Abe Lincoln driving a hybrid, driving past the countryside, and what? Good one.
And here are your picks.
Okay, let's see. Yeah, nice. Nice, gotcha, Bradley.
I mean, Abe Lincoln driving a hybrid was interesting.
Ah, yeah, nice.
Oh, Abe Lincoln driving a hybrid is the actual title?
That was
That
the
was,
actual
yeah.
thing I was asked to draw. I feel like the two of you set me up with something that is well outside of my artistic range.
Emerson, you got the lead.
Let's do that drawing thing again. Prompts should be on your devices now.
All right, now we're back to drawing. My mother-in-law is a phenomenal artist, and she'd be really embarrassed with me.
Yeah, feel free not to share this episode with her.
Yeah.
I feel like next time I need to come armed with a tablet and a proper writing utensil, and perhaps an artist sitting next to me just out of camera view.
Yeah, and some tracing paper as well.
Right.
Yeah, I'm telling you, when we did this with Jeff Blankenberg and Dave Isbitsky, Jeff was like a professional artist. I mean, he's obviously got a lot of experience.
30 seconds left, y'all.
How's it going, Bradley?
Wrap it up. What you're
See him
doing is
deep.
not gonna be that easy. Awesome. Wrap it up.
Okay.
Drawings in? Check. Let's get to the fun part. Type in a convincing title now. And here are your choices.
Nathan for You, Crying Astronaut, Martian Fly Swatter, and Aliens from Space.
And here are your picks.
Ooh. Damn, you got me. That was my next guess.
I tried to write NASA on the cap, and it like got messed up, and then I was like, I just wrote it above it.
I feel slightly redeemed.
Oh,
Like-
we're tied for second.
Yeah, I feel like, can we just, the show just has to cut now, right? We're done? I'm fine with a second place finish. I'm fine sharing the silver medal. Whoa.
Look of fear and confusion is both gratifying and disappointing because this was my drawings.
Here are your choices.
Double popped collar, vampire with bow tie, caped crusader, and What?
Let's see what people picked.
And see, this is where it gets challenging because it gives me points if you guess correctly,
Oh, wow.
as opposed to giving the other person points when you get it. Nice, yeah, good job, Jonathan. Oh, you might be in first place now.
Stop it.
Oh,
Ladies and gentlemen, Vegas had me as a 3-1 underdog in this show. I feel like I'm getting people excited right now.
Next drawing.
oh, what is this?
You didn't invite me on for these skills. Or if you did, then my profile is misleading.
And here are
Right.
your
Popped thought bubble, dazed and confused, verbal diarrhea, and ducks. Hmm.
And here are your picks.
Yes.
Oh, is that not it? Oh, no.
Nice.
Wow. Wow.
Well done.
Oh, and you won.
There you go.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Darn. Yeah, good showing for your first drawful game.
Oh, yeah.
I'm feeling pretty good about my performance. There's clearly stuff I can work on in the gym, and my off-season routine will reflect that. But for at least my first showing, I'm not embarrassed.
Yeah, your rookie card will look good.
Right.
Very clearly, we're enjoying the work.
I try.
Thank you for joining us, Jonathan. We appreciate it, and it's super interesting what you're doing, and we appreciate you giving us some of your time this morning.
This was playful and fun. Enjoy the program a lot. If I can ever be of help, I'm easy to find.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jonathan. Thanks everybody out there in the audience. Have a great Friday and a great weekend. We'll see you next week.